Okay, let's move on. This is a really creepy story. Don't want to just make it about CNN.
Story.
It's actually about a much broader problem in media about whitewashing, child sex trafficking, and child sex abuse. So we'll start out with the very basic facts, which is that, and let's put this on the screen, please. CNN, Chris Cuomo, obviously, ex-CNN primetime talent's producer, was just charged by authorities with luring girls for sexual training. Now, his name is John Griffin of Stamford, Connecticut. I'm just reading directly from this. Allegedly used messaging apps to befriend and persuade moms of young girls, telling them a woman is a woman regardless of her age, and that he should be the one to, quote, train their daughters sexually, according to an indictment from the U.S. Attorney of Vermont. Griffin, 44, allegedly got at least one mom of two daughters to bring a girl to his Ludlow ski getaway in June of 2020. It was then the mom's responsibility to see that her older daughter, 13 years old, was, quote, trained properly. Griffin himself, a father, sent the woman $3,000 for plane tickets so they could fly from Nevada to Boston, where he picked them up for a ride to Ludlow, Vermont. He's been pictured, many times with CNN's Chris Cuomo, and it's very clear that he was directing that young girl, 13 years old, to engage in unlawful sexual activity. He attempted to do this with two other children over the internet. And from the indictment, he used apps like Kik and Google Hangout, and in April of 2020, he even suggested, quote, a virtual training session over a video chat that would include him instructing a mother and her 14-year-old daughter to remove their clothing and touch each other. In June, he told another mom of a 16-year-old that she would take a mother-daughter trip to his ski house for sexual training involving the child. Okay, I feel sick. By the way, who are these moms? I hope they're going to jail too.
Sick.
Look. The government, if it has one job on this earth, is in order to lock people like this up forever. This problem, though, is that these stories, obviously celebrated by the right wing, in this case, but they will ignore many cases that involve
By the way, this dude used to work at Fox News.
There you go. Okay, good. So this is what it's a bipartisan problem. But what I have been really disturbed by is this general idea that because it was a QAnon thing in order to believe that there was child sex trafficking, that we should try to attack the idea that there's child sex trafficking at all. And that came out from the Atlantic almost immediately before this indictment dropped. Let's put this up there on the screen. They write, quote, the great fake child sex trafficking epidemic, dispatches from a moral panic. And what they point to are viral instances in which people have been claimed to be abducted or more, and they say that on average, Save the Children posts and others are a moral panic akin to satanic worship in the 1980s. Number one, the numbers don't bear that out whatsoever. Number two, Ghislaine Maxwell is literally on trial. I mean, for running a child sex trafficking ring. So you can't say that there's a moral panic whenever you have one of the most high-profile child sex trafficking ring trials ever in modern American history at the exact same time.
If we're gonna have a moral panic about anything, let's have about this. I'm good with that.
I think we're okay.
I mean, I actually know, and I suspect you do too, I know people who have been working in the, to combat sex trafficking for years, long before QAnon. And, there are a lot of misconceptions about who is vulnerable and susceptible to ultimately being trafficked. And, used to be the idea is, this only happens with, girls from other countries or in other places, et cetera. And the reality is a lot of young girls who are in traumatic or vulnerable situations.
Especially homeless.
Especially homeless or, in an unstable home situation, that those are people who are most vulnerable here. So to pretend like it's not an issue, I mean, obviously we can see in front of our eyes right now with the trial that's going on that this is something that is happening. It's happening here, and it's something that it should not be a partisan issue to be disgusted by. And outraged by. There is a weird thing going on with the Ghislaine Maxwell trial and the QAnon people, which just shows you like the partisan brainworms, I guess, infect absolutely everybody. Is that, of course, the QAnon people have been super focused on save the children and using the hashtag. But the minute that in the trial, the pilot said, oh, by the way, Donald Trump was on the plane a number of times. And
yeah, they got very upset.
Another witness was like, another one of the victims had been introduced to Trump at Mar-a-Lago. Then suddenly, we're not as interested in this. So we even saw Lauren Boebert like trying to downplay, who's the most QAnon, I guess, of the members now, trying to downplay the trial and whatever. So I don't know. It makes me sad for the country that you're in a place where you're trying to like have child sex trafficking somehow fit into your
into the
narrative.
Culture war. I also would be remiss if we didn't show you this. Let's put this up there on the screen. That article about how there is a moral panic was written in the Atlantic. And before you, for those who are just listening, is an image of Laurene Powell Jobs, who is the majority stakeholder in the Atlantic, with Ghislaine Maxwell hanging out seemingly poolside. It looks like, just saying, that happens to be, you write an article about a fake moral panic, the owner of your company literally hanging out with Ghislaine Maxwell. Laurene Powell Jobs is the widow of Steve Jobs, multi-billionaire, obviously, and she's been investing in a lot of media organizations as well. I'm not implying anything about her personal conduct or whatever, but I think it just goes to show you that there are certain issues that they don't want to talk about because they implicate, in many cases, not them and their personal behavior necessarily, but who they hang out with and the morals of the people who are willing to overlook literal child sex trafficking and allegations, and in Epstein's case, being actually convicted of abuse of a minor and still being accepted into the highest echelons of American social society, Bill Gates, obviously, and more. So look, this CNN thing, we're not trying to score cheap points against anybody. I think the indictment is so repulsive and just goes to show that this person is a depraved, absolutely depraved, sick, evil individual. But it's it's a story that drops, almost immediately after seemingly an elite campaign in order to whitewash the idea that there is child sex trafficking here in the United States. And this just goes to show you this is happening all over the country. Don't turn it into a culture war thing, and don't whitewash what's happening right now. It's just really sick.
Indeed. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching.
That's right. Just as a reminder, you can become a premium subscriber today. Watch the full show completely uncut, our reactions to each other's monologues. You get to listen to it. You get to ask us questions, all that good stuff. Link is right there in the description or at breakingpoints.com.
Best of all, great way to say screw you to the mainstream media.